This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Friday, May 30th of 2025, and we are so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I'll talk with the state climatologist for Iowa, Dr. Justin Glisan. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. But first off, I had a general weather discussion with Dr. Glisan about what's going on in Iowa right now. Of course, keeping a close eye on that drought monitor. We have seen some good rains, though, so it's a very interesting time to be looking at that as we head into a weather market. We're back again this week with the state climatologist for Iowa, Dr. Justin Glisan, as we get an update on the latest weather conditions across the state. First off, Justin, it's been a very rainy period here in the state of Iowa. How are those rainfall totals looking for other parts of the state, and what are we wanting to see from that right now?
Hi, Riley. Yeah, nice to be back with you. So you look across the state through May, the first half of May, very dry, about 20% of normal precipitation across the state, with May being the second wettest month climatologically for much of Iowa. So you think of the last 7 to 10 days, we've seen widespread and beneficial rainfalls. In fact, you look at the NASS reporting period for crop progress, about an inch above average across the state. So we saw totals across central, south central, and stretching over into eastern Iowa on the order of 3, 4, 5 inches. So 2 to 3, 4 inches above average for this time of year in a 7-day span. So that was excellent news. We had a great planting window, as we've discussed in previous recordings. But the faucet turned back on, and we have seen a rebound in our topsoil and subsoil moisture profiles.
And as for those moisture profiles, with the drought monitor, we're going to be looking at that a lot more now. As we get into June, that's really kind of the time period where not only the commodity market prices, but farmers in general are really watching that weather. How is the drought monitor looking as of right now?
Yep, so you look across the state, about 10% coverage of that D1 moderate drought category, and this has bumped up slightly since last week, particularly southwestern Iowa, where we've seen longer-term precipitation deficits on the order of 4 to 6 months, and we're seeing an impact in terms of stream flows, but also soil moisture, as well as some localized water problems over in Avoca. So widespread, you look across the state, about 47% D0, abnormally dry category, not drought, but more reflective of short-term dryness. And then a lack of drought across much of the central, getting into southern parts of the state. So you think about this time last year, we actually had just busted the 4-year drought from 2020 to 2024. The map is a little more filled in right now, but still looking pretty good. As you mentioned, June and particularly in July is when we see our warmest temperatures. And if we do get into a dry pattern, that's where we could easily backslide into drought, see intensification and expansion if we do get into a warmer regime. Right now, if you look at the outlooks, we're seeing a strong warm signal into next week. So the potential for mid to upper 80s over the weekend and into next week. But then a wet signal. It's looking like it's going to shift back into a more active storm track. We've been stuck under a cutoff low across the upper Midwest. Unsettled weather, showers and thunderstorms here and there, but lots of clouds, gloomy out sometimes. So that low pressure feature is going to push off, and we're going to see a return to a more active storm track, which hopefully brings us more rainfall through June.
So something that we had happen early last week was a day of rain that resulted, at least in Ankeny, where I'm located, about what I think it was 4.7 inches of rain over the period of one day. Obviously, that is a huge amount of rain to get in such a short amount of time. When it comes to these rainfall amounts, I know we're going to take whatever we can get, so all rain is good rain. But do we prefer to see maybe large amounts of rain all at once, or maybe more spread out over a period of time? What's kind of best for those soil moisture profiles?
Yes, ideally, we would like that gentle rainfall over 24, 36, 48 hours, that widespread, more large-scale rainfall, as opposed to downpours in which we get half a month or a month's worth over 24 hours. Now, as you said, we'll take anything we can get. But when you see those higher totals, you're more prone to see more runoff as opposed to soaking into the soil profiles. And that makes drought monitoring a much more complex process. So ideally, gentle rainfalls. But it seems like the rainfall that we saw over the last 7 days, which fell over 24 to 48 hours, was good enough to get at least some decent and efficient infiltration deeper down into the soil profiles. We haven't really seen an uptick in stream flows, and given that soil moisture profiles have been drier than normal, there's plenty of infiltration capacity to get this rainfall in.
Then, of course, we're heading into the month of June very soon. When it comes to what we expect to see weather-wise for that, I know June, one of the wettest months of the year here in Iowa. What are we looking for this year?
Yep, so June is the wettest month climatologically for the northern 2/3 of the state. So we typically expect around 5 inches of rainfall in June. If you look at the initial outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center, we're seeing a strong signal for slightly warmer temperatures, but no clear signal on the precipitation side. We'll have an update on the final June outlook on May 31st, which is on Saturday. My initial impressions, given the short-term outlooks getting into the first half of June, are showing elevated precipitation chances. We might see a shift towards either elevated chances of more rainfall, at least in the first half of June, or we'll stay in that equal chance category, telling us that we really don't have an idea. But again, climatologically, we should see a good amount of rainfall through the month.
All right, Justin, lots of great information today for anyone who would like to keep up to date on the climate conditions in Iowa and also submit some ground conditions reports. How can they do that?
Yes, and those ground condition reports are particularly important this time of year, as you mentioned. So my direct line is 515-281-8981, or Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to our website with all my contact information and all kinds of weather and climate data.
That again was Dr. Justin Glisan, the state climatologist for Iowa. We'll go ahead and take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're joined now by Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net for the closing market summary. First up, Curt, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
A little bit lower, typical Friday. Seems like it sells off going into the weekend. In the month, maybe we'll see some new money come in next week as we start the month of June. But corn futures finished anywhere from 1 to 3 cents lower on the day. On the weekly chart, down 10, 12, 15 cents. So we're getting down to the lower end of the support zone. Soybeans finished 8 to 11 cents lower today. It's kind of going to be down to testing support on the weekly chart, down 18 to 24 cents a bushel. Just real soft there. Wheat market, Chicago down 1 to 2, down 8 to 9 cents on the weekly chart. So backing and filling. Once again, we're just kind of watching the market trade headline news. Finishing up the weekend here, it seems like U.S.-Chinese trade tensions are picking up a little bit heading into the weekend. Favorable forecast over to the near term. Crops looking pretty good. Look for the good excellent category to be pretty strong here next Monday afternoon. This morning's weekly export sales report, corn was within the trade expectations, kind of in the middle upper end. The beans down at the lower end. We're still selling it, but just not quite as aggressive as what the trade wants it to come out as there, Riley.
And then with the weather market, you mentioned favorable forecast coming up. June is kind of the unofficial start of that kind of heavy focus on the weather in the marketplace. With that favorable forecast, how is that looking as we head into the weather market?
Yeah, that's the main thing here. Once we get that crop in the ground, get it up, we're going to see how many times we can kill it or how good it can look. So the weather guys get most of the focus. Typically, as we move into June, we start to get a handle, especially going into the first day of summer. So typically by mid-June, we kind of get an indication of where it's going to be a little dry or a little wet or a little hot or a little cold. Usually going into that first day of summer is what everybody's wanting to watch. Of course, the weather guys are kind of watching the ocean temperatures off the West Coast. And the main thing is you watch the nightly weather channel or your local weather is see if that omega high pressure ridge sets in and whether it is anchored to the west or anchored to the east. We just want to anchor where we're on my farm. So we'll see what happens there. But that, along with tariff news, we'll see how that unfolds. Did sell some corn to unknown destination. We've seen some decent sales this week in corn on day-to-day demand.
And then over in the livestock market, how do cattle and hogs trade today?
Oh man, you talking about trading headlines? It was a rodeo here first part of the week. In fact, then the exchange comes back. They're going to broaden the daily trading limits a little bit. So we're going to see some wide swings. The fat market finished 5 to 70 cents lower. We're down 70 to $1.20 on the week. Feeders down 80 to $1, down $1.65 on the week, but they're well off the weekly lows. Same thing we've been looking at, just tight fundamental situation. Cash is a huge premium to where the futures are. Hogs up 50 to $1.90 on the weekly chart, up $3. The lean index continues to remain strong, 93.50. It's challenging last year's highs. Probably saw some spread unwinding or spreading put on between the hogs and the cattle here this week.
All right, Curt, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
And go to agmarket.net, click on Intel. That's where they've got sort of the most of the partners' advice and ideas there, or else give us a call here locally, 1-800-779-1515.
All right, Curt, thanks again for the analysis. As always, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Very good. Take care.
That again was Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers closed through the market window at iowaagnet.com.
July corn down 3 even at 444 even. July soybeans down 10 even at 1041 3/4. July soybean meal down 10 cents at 296.30. Soybean oil down $1.50 at 46.89. Chicago wheat went unchanged at 534 even. Kansas City hard red wheat up 1.5 at 533 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat at news time up 9 even at 624 1/2. July oats up 3 1/4 at 378 3/4. On the Merc, June live cattle down a nickel at 215.47. August feeder cattle down $1.10 at 298.82. June lean hogs up 130 at 101.32. June pork cutout went unchanged at 105.67. And June class 3 milk up 3 cents at 19.19.
That's been a check of the markets here at Ag Matters PM, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Check out as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential, which just recently released its 20th episode. Find those on your favorite podcasting services at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean, or again on our website at iowaagnet.com under the podcast tab. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.